how would someone suspect they were low in oxytocin?
You know what? In like the self-evaluation with yourself, it's assessing, do I feel connected? Do I, am I enjoying the activities I used to enjoy? Am I feeling less likely to initiate intimacy or some of those activities? I'm not playing with my pet as much. I'm not going out to my horses and connecting with my girlfriends. I'm not interacting in life, engaged in life as much as I used to. Now, there are other hormones involved in there too, serotonin, dopamine, et cetera, melatonin, and all our reproductive hormones have a part, but definitely that over the long haul, looking at those symptoms of low oxytocin is key. The other thing is when we think of autism as a low oxytocin state, so not making eye contact, not having physical touch or initiating physical touch, cold clammy hands, pale skin, those are symptoms of those can be symptoms of low oxytocin, among other
And
things.
and what things would make your oxytocin go low?
Definitely number one is stress, is certainly stress, trauma, depression, negative self-talk. That most common thing I see, it has to do with cortisol is the most common thing.
So you could pretty
Yeah.
much assume if someone's got, chronically, and I think this is so important to designate. I hear so much stuff right now about people being afraid to exercise because it causes a cortisol rise. I'm like, yes, that's good. Like
Yeah.
we got to know acute versus chronic. If you cannot acutely raise cortisol, we will not be here. So we
Right.
want to be able to do that. And if you looked at the things that happen during exercise, you would not exercise because you'd look like you were having a heart attack,
Right.
So it's kind of ridiculous. But, I'm looking at what are these things because it seems like it's safe to say if you've got chronically elevated or probably just the opposite that would be true too. If you've really burnt out your adrenals, either one of those two things would
Yep.
also mean low oxytocin.
Yeah, because when your cortisol's up for a long time, your paraventricular nucleus in the brain will say, okay, cortisol, you are frying me out, and suppress it. It's like putting the brakes on your cortisol. And so what happens, the adrenals aren't burnt out. They're just in hypofunction. Like your body, your PVN is like, okay, we got to save you from frying out the system. High chronic cortisol is catabolic. It breaks down muscle, it breaks down bone. Hence, one of the reasons I have a 37-year-old in my practice right now with osteoporosis, very high stress and PTSD. I mean, that it will break down. Cortisol is catabolic. It breaks us down. Oxytocin, and it increases acidity in our bodies. It actually physiologically increases hydrogen ion secretion across our renal tubules of our kidneys, and so creates that acidic urine pH, which long term too isn't good for bladder health. I mean, cystitis, infections, incontinence. As we get older, we have to really pay attention to these things. So anything that can help support decreasing oxytocin is going to help support increasing
Yeah.
oxytocin. Yeah, so anything that supports increasing oxytocin is going to help manage cortisol. And with that concept of, oh, well, I agree. Don't run a marathon when you're burnout. I mean, I agree. Go
Yeah.
for a
Well,
walk, do
don't run
things.
a marathon.
Yeah, and don't ever run a marathon. Right. I got
Don't
that
run a
one.
marathon. How's that?
So,
I know I'm going to get some hate on that, but
yeah.
sorry, take some of that time and do some resistance training, hit training, and meditate.
Well, or put that challenge on and check it off. But look at the state of your life that you're in, marathon runners versus sprinters, which looks healthier, and what else is going on in your life. So if you're focusing on that alkalinizing, nourishing diet, you've got low inflammation in your system. When you have, anything, you have a gratitude practice, you have good relationships and good friendships, that's a very good cocoon to do whatever exercise you want, honestly. Because And this is the other piece with oxytocin and say, okay, cortisol is acidifying, oxytocin is alkalinizing. We've seen that in many studies. We've seen that it helps with regeneration of even aged muscles. Again, there's so much good stuff with oxytocin as far as a longevity hormone is the key to longevity. And especially if you consider what do most people want on their, gravestones or their their headstones at the time they die, I loved well and I was well loved, right? I mean, that's oxytocin, right? Not that I worked harder or,
I worked
stressed
my
out.
ass off and
Worked
felt
my
like
ass
people didn't
off.
appreciate me. That's
That's
what you
right.
don't know.